Hi, my name is Natasha Russo, and I am here because I don't know where to start. And I figure with a lot of things in my life, I haven't known where to start. And because I don't know where to start, I don't start. And a day leads into a week, and a week leads into another month into another year into suddenly a decade. And here I am, 47 years old, and I've lived a life where I continually get in these ruts of not starting things that I know I'm supposed to be doing or I want to be doing and I strive to be doing, but I don't have this perfect beginning or I don't have all the elements lined up as they should be. So here I am, completely raw, and maybe someday I'll look back and be like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I have not done my hair. I don't have any makeup on. I am just me. And I think that if I want to truly express who my authentic person is you need to see me this way, because I'm not going to put on makeup and blow out my hair and try to be somebody that the internet is going to accept, because this right here, this is a gift from my heart. It's a gift from me. And basically, I just want people to see that what I have in me is not special at all. It is actually in you and you and you and you. And sometimes it just takes the right person or event or circumstances to help us realize that. So if I can be that for even just one person, this is worth my time and my effort. So what makes me any kind of expert on anything on life? Well, I'll give you a quick summary of who I am and what's got me to where I am today. So I most notably, as of the recent last 24 years, I am a mom. I have 4 kids. I have started my own business. I have recently been on a very transformative health journey. And so for me, COVID was actually the biggest blessing, because again, I never knew where to start. I would say, okay, I'm going to start the diet on Monday, or I'm going to start working out on Monday. But being the mom of 4 kids, and 4 kids with very complicated medical histories of their own, to give you a quick summary, I've had one child have open heart surgery. I've had another child have brain surgery. I've had another child have reconstructive knee surgery. I've been through clinical trials with my children, not me personally, but it felt like me personally, with a child for a severe life-threatening food allergy. We've dealt with a slew of mental health issues, and that's just the quick of it. I mean, there's been I could have a frequent flyer pass at the local orthopedist office. They know me by voice and by name because we've had many broken bones, sprained ankles, teared ligaments, you name it, we've been there. And that's just the quick summary of it all. So, well, I'm sure through time those stories will come up as well. But through those experiences, I have maintained, for not only my own self and my mental health, the lessons that I'm going to teach here, or I'm going to express here, to my kids, to hopefully instill in them that they have choices on how to navigate life's adversities, which come when we least expect it. What else makes me an expert at this? Well, oh, as I said, okay, let's circle back. So recently, one of my most proud accomplishments has been I have lost a significant amount of weight. I began at about 300 pounds during COVID. Maybe I was like 290 when COVID started. But then, like many people, we were home and we were baking. Baked homemade breads and lots of cookies and cakes. And we had, at that time when COVID had hit, I had I believe he was a sophomore in college at UC Berkeley. My daughter was in high school. She was a senior in high school. I had a 8th grader in middle school and a 6th grader in middle school. And we live in a very small house, and we were all thrown back in here, all of our, just like everybody else, all of our normalcies were kind of ripped from us. and all of our routines. So before, my routine was pick up this kid, drop off this kid, organize this for this kid, organize that for this kid, go shopping for so this kid can have nutritious meals, cook these nutritious meals. So a lot of my time and effort and energy was also being on call, because I never knew when we would have an unexpected, heart defect, or a brain tumor, or a sports related injury, or, mental health struggles that were very debilitating. So I was on call 24/7, just waiting for catastrophe. I had my cape hanging in the closet, always ready. If it wasn't in the closet, it was in my car. It was always with me to just throw back on and become this super person for somebody else. So anyways, long story short, which I am not very concise. That is eventually going to be a goal of mine, is to work on being a little more concise, but my stories sometimes go in big long loops. But hopefully you'll bear with me, and if you hate me, please just change the channel. If you love me, you know what, like me, give me a thumbs up, whatever. I don't know how these things work, but anyway. So during COVID, I finally had time. It was like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I don't have to drop off somebody or pick up somebody or take this person to a doctor, or go to a supermarket or go to Costco, or I'm like, okay, so what do I do? And it was like, by the time 11 o'clock came, I'm like looking around, I finished my work, I've done all these things, and I'm like, well, what's next? And my kids were in school with their all day long, because you had college kids who were taking courses, at 8 p.m. You had not elementary, but middle school kids, doing their normal 8 a.m. to noon routine, whatever it was at that time. And it just was pretty chaotic. So I eventually had, I believe it was after May, my daughter had her high school graduation, which was at home in our living room. And we did sneak, and it was the first time my mom had came, but my mom was isolated, and we were very, very diligently, as proactively protective as we could be, simply because, we were warned by our doctors that, the majority of us in my family would be okay. However, my son with the heart defects, it was really uncertain at that point how it would affect him. And so they were the one, like, across the board, everybody was like, you need to protect yourselves in order to protect him. And so we were very good about that. But my mom had came over, and then my brother, his wife, and kids had ended up surprising us. We didn't know, which was very sweet. And so we had this like moment in the living room, and the graduation ended up being long and very boring. And luckily my daughter's thing went in the beginning. And we thought, yeah, as unfortunate this is we're not in a stadium with all your classmates that you've gone to school with, some people since preschool or kindergarten. We were allowed to have this intimate experience that we would never have had it not been for COVID. So anyways, of course, right? You have these events, and then they had this funny thing where we could drive through the school a few days later, and there was a cutout of the principal of the school, and then my daughter could take a picture with this cutout, and we could stay in the car and take the photos. And I believe somehow maybe she got her diploma then too. I don't really remember that part. Anyways, I'm pretty sure she did. But anyways, we ended up going down to like a local park, and we took some family pictures. And I remember looking at the pictures afterwards, and I was like, who is this lady that got in this picture? And where did I go? And I remember just looking at the picture and thinking, oh my God, like, this is not a representation of who I am on the inside. Like, if I close my eyes and I'm not looking in a mirror, like, I don't feel like that is who I am. Yet this is who I am showing the world I am. This is who I have become. And it really just kind of, I had to sit with that for a little while. And I just was like, well, what happened? Like, how did this happen? Like, and I get it. There wasn't time because I was so busy, and it was like, I don't like wasting. And so, my kids would eat half a grilled cheese, and I would eat the other half of the grilled cheese, or, they were full and didn't finish their fruit. And I would just, without thinking, I would just eat it. Or there were times that, like, I was really struggling. Like, it was difficult having this experience where I'm a kid. My first kid, I was pregnant at 22. My first child was born when I was 23. He was born 10 weeks early. He ended up needing multiple heart surgeries. And I mean, not multiple, he had multiple heart defects, needed only one heart surgery. Let me take that back. But anyways, I was and it was so many familial things were happening. I was married to somebody I had only known for 3 months and then got pregnant. And it was like, oh, well, what do we do? And we ended up getting married, and that was that. And so here I was, this like young kid experiencing these very adult things, and not really having a ton of support or resources. We didn't have the internet back in 1999 in the year 2000 the way it is now. So I didn't have easy access to information, and I didn't really know at that time I probably needed it, because I had grown up in this trauma. I had I had teenage parents, and then my dad ended up raising us, which was unheard of in the 80s. So everybody had these assumptions that my mom was dead, which basically in a way she kind of was, because she wasn't in my life. And because of her own things, no hard feelings or anything anymore. But it was just very difficult. And so basically, after all of this is said, I oftentimes would lean on food, because I had to be always ready to be on call. I can't drink alcohol if I need to be on call, and I don't do drugs, but I couldn't do drugs if I needed to be on call, because what if catastrophe hits? I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. I know there's many other vices that people lean on or lean into as a way of buffering their pain, and I happen to lean on food. I loved my bread, my pasta, and my cookies, my sweets, back then soda, all those things. And I still love a lot of those things, and actually I still very much so enjoy those. I have sweets every day, so no harm in that. But I finally realized that I was so out of balance, and I just was really trying to feed this hole in my soul with food. And temporarily it would feel good eating, and temporarily I'd be okay. But it just was not anything that was sustainable on a longevity path. So out of boredom, out of I need a break, because I also was thrust from my things. My kids would be home on the weekends, we'd be going to soccer games or cheerleading competitions or whatever sport or activity they were engaging in. And then if there was any kind of free time, I would try to quickly schedule something like, oh, let's go do this. We finally have a weekend where all 4 of you guys don't have an event. So let's go off and do this. Let's go off and do that. Let's go off and do this. So now, but I really loved my peace. I loved my quiet. I loved when they were around and the chaos, but there was something that was magical about a Monday morning after Christmas vacation, or the Monday morning after summer vacation, where it was just like, ah, I can breathe. There's silence. There aren't these external forces and people that need me, that want me. It was just like, I can breathe. I can be me. And so to now be in a situation where there was never silence, there was just never quiet, because if they weren't doing school, they were on the phones or Zooms or whatever it was with their friends. They were on video games screaming, ah! And, there was just a lot of chaos. And so I needed to find an escape. And after I had seen the photos, that was at the end of May when she graduated, I was like, maybe I'll try walking. I can get outside. I can get fresh air. This will take a chunk of the day up. And we live on a slight, very, very slight incline of a hill. And I remember those first days of walking, like I would get up to where there's a mailbox, and I would be like gasping for air. And it was painful. And I didn't have any kind of like goal. I didn't say, okay, I want to do this or that, like reach this thing. I just knew I was 300 pounds, and I knew that I needed to do something. I knew that I had this relationship with my grandma that was pure magic. That was, that scene in Dumbo where the mama elephant just takes Dumbo and cradles in the trunk, and the song Sweet Baby of Mine is playing. Like, that is my relationship with my grandma. Like, she wasn't my mom, but in so many ways she was my mom, and she was my everything. And I thought to myself, I no longer have my grandma here, and I was blessed for so many years with my grandma here. And especially the years when I was young and we would travel together, and she would spend the night, and we would play hooky, and we just had such a marvelous time that I could see that the trajectory of my own life was going on a path where I may miss days, minutes, hours, years with my own grandchildren that I could hopefully emulate this beautiful, magical relationship with, but now as the grandmother to the grandchild. And so as I walked up the small incline, less than a 5-minute little, probably a 2-minute walk, I don't know, up the hill, I started picturing my future grandkids. And I was like, well, this is why I'm doing it. And with some more reflection, I started thinking, all right, well, where are we going with this? Like, I enjoyed the walk, and the first week I huffed and puffed up to the mailbox. But the second week, I passed the mailbox. I didn't pass it by much, maybe another block. And that's when the huffing and puffing began. And I stuck with it. And I thought to myself, that's the secret. Sometimes in life, I tend to think that it has to be this big goal and this magnificent thing at the end. And what I realized about me is sometimes I get frustrated. Sometimes I get upset. I feel defeated. I feel like I'm not doing enough, or I didn't do good enough. And so I realized that about myself and said, no, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to say, I want to lose 100 pounds. That seems really, really big, especially when losing weight is this humongous obstacle that many of us face. And so what I did was I said, we're going to take this 1 pound at a time. 1 pound, 1 pound. If you get to 299, if you get to 298, that is a great week. And we're taking it not by day, but by week. It is 1 pound for the week. And that brought me so much joy because it was this attainable thing. It wasn't humongous. And there were parts of me that was like, yeah, but nobody's even going to notice, 1 pound, is it going to make a difference? And I didn't listen to the monologue. There's a monologue that can sometimes run between our ears. And I had a dialogue with that. And I said, yeah, maybe. So what if nobody notices you lost a pound? Who cares? Have you ever been a person that has derived their worth or their value from somebody else's external things? No, because simply I did not receive it. I had a teenage dad who did it the best he could at the time. And there wasn't a whole lot of like, good job, Natasha, atta girl, you're doing a great job. No, I didn't have that. And so I've created this force within me that is able to not only be my harshest critic, but in the most loving way now, but also is my biggest cheerleader. Like, I can say, well done. Like, I am proud of you. You did this. Like, be proud. So yeah, if I lose 1 pound and the only form of gratification I get is by looking at that number, then fabulous. Like, great. That's wonderful. If somebody else notices, that is a cherry on top, because what we can't see, what nobody else can see, is inside what was happening. inside, the fat that was coming off of my internal organs weighing me down, the the courage to say, let me try this, and then the gratification of knowing, oh, my work matters. My work makes changes. My choices, where I put my focus, where I put my energy, it does deem results. And it could be weight, it could be exercise, it could be relationships. This same lesson transcends all. And so I began very small. And for a while, I really did use as a gauge, as my scale, well, how far can I walk? If I can walk this much further and not be out of breath, then I'm getting better regardless of what the scale says. Because some days, even though I was really busting my butt, the scale didn't budge. Or maybe sometimes even the scale budged the other way. And I'm like, how is this possible? I've done this and I've done this. And so I really just took the process slow, and I began with the walking, and that's just where it all began for me. And it was being out in nature, and the world was a lot quieter during COVID, right? I live near a freeway. You didn't hear much sound on the freeway. You didn't see many people walking at that time. I could have the freedom to go walk up in the hills and just listen to the birds, see the trees, feel the sun shine down on me. And it was really the biggest gift. I never would have anticipated something like a pandemic to shift my way of thinking. And back to that argument as another motivating factor for me was I'm fairly intelligent, and I could read the data and see obese people were not faring well. And I was at that time considered morbidly obese. And I just got this sense of like heaviness, like, what have I done to myself? Consciously chose this. And now I'm in a position where these decisions, beyond what I could see, because obviously I had increased, likelihood of a stroke or heart attack or, those kind of things. But now, there's a real clear and present danger, and I'm putting my life in jeopardy, which would then affect the lives of my loved ones dearly if something would happen to their mother. So I started very, very slow, and eventually I ended up starting to I would start to see that scale move down. I became seeing the scale moving down. And I would, play little mind games with myself, and I would, congratulate myself. I would reward myself. I did not reward myself with food or things like that anymore. Food did not become a reward. I just rewarded myself with more knowledge, or, practicing different things like meditation or yoga, or, sitting out on the beach. These were my rewards. It was something bigger than just the food. And, I eventually started getting to the point where I was losing so much that I would then say, okay, the next goal is not going to be 1 pound. And I would do basically, if I would kind of I called it leveling down. So if I was 260, I would get down to 265. Once I hit that 265, I'm like, okay, 260 areas, I would be like, I want to see a 5. So I want to be 259. That's the next goal. And then when that 259 would hit, let me tell you, it was like you were standing on the scale and just tears. And at this point, all I was doing was exercising. Now, naturally, I was being a little bit more cognizant of my portion sizes, of my food choices. But really, the main focus at this point was still just exercising, just incorporating one thing at a time, because I felt like if I was now I have to exercise, now I have to change what I'm eating, now I have to throttle what food choices I'm making, it would not work for me. I had tried that before. 10 years before that, I had did this 1,200 calorie diet, and when I was in it, it was okay. There were so many days though that I was crying looking at a menu, and I'm like, I can't eat anything on here. This one meal is 2 days worth of food for me. And now granted, my stomach had shrunk, and so my appetite had such, but I didn't want to choose a lifestyle that I was going to be in pain. And I felt like I was making sacrifices, and that was not for me. And so I continued to do more research about different things. And I had stumbled upon intermittent fasting. And my uncle Jerry, who you will hear a lot about in here, he is my guru, my mentor. He was very big on fasting, and his methodology was more of a fast and then go back to things. Mine was like, for me, I know I'm a creature of routine. I'm a creature of habit. That is my mojo. That is where I thrive. Personally, I'm always ready. I still have that cape. If something goes awry, I'm ready to go rumble. But I love like being able to follow a routine. And so when I found out about intermittent fasting, I thought it was a really intriguing option. And I was like, I think I could do this. Like I could still eat everything. There's no restrictions on anything. I can have cake and I can have ice cream and I can have bread and I can have butter and pasta and potatoes and burgers and pizza. Wait, I can eat this all and still improve my health, even these terrible things. And so I started intermittent fasting. I'm like, what do I have to lose? Like, this costs nothing. It's free. It's not like I have to go to Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or pay for a Nutrisystem, special meal plan or anything. So I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And I strategically kind of placed my hours to where I could enjoy the most meals with my kids. That was important. Gathering around the table and sharing food. There's something about it that's very precious and important to me. It's a way where none of us have our phones. We're making eye contact. We're hearing about one another's days. We're sharing good food, hopefully, usually. And so I started doing the intermittent fasting. So I incorporated that slowly. As I'd already began to lose weight, I slowly started to incorporate that. And again, for me, what the intermittent fasting did was it just applied rules. It was like, you can eat anything you want. It's just not at these times. These are the times you're allowed to eat and engorge if you want to. Eat it all. Eat the entire 8 hours. Of course you don't want to, but just knowing I can, somehow psychologically, that really gave me a lot of peace. And so it was very difficult in the beginning because, again, I said we live in a very small house and my kids are up at all hours, which means there is food cooked all the time here. Whether it's by me, whether by somebody else, even if it's just popcorn or chips or whatever. And for me, the smelling of the food is such a trigger of like, I'm not hungry, but I want to eat. And so I found like when it was outside of my eating window, I would get like very famished, very, very hungry. And I just didn't have, it was a struggle at that time to have the willpower to be like, no, I'm not eating. And for a little while, I kind of felt deprived. And then I remember even one of my kids was like, so sorrowfully looking at me and saying, Mom, I'm so, so sorry. I have an alarm that's supposed to go off in a few minutes. So I'm going to shut it off when it does go off because I'm going. But anyways, Mom, I'm just so sad that you can't eat and all this. And I kind of listened to it and I thought about it later that night. And then the next morning I went up to him and I was like, thank you for your comment and thank you for the sympathy to understand, like, this is a struggle. This is a difficult situation to be in. However, I said, there's one thing I want you to know is this is by choice. Like, I am choosing to not eat in these times and I'm choosing to eat at these times. So I don't feel deprived. I don't feel like I'm not experiencing something I really want to be experiencing. I'm just choosing. So I'm empowering myself again. I'm choosing to eat in these certain periods of time. And by doing so, I started having these phenomenal results. Like I used to always have GI problems, gone. I used to have a lot of migraines, gone. I would have a kind of brain fog, gone. My skin, although I have a current situation going on, but my skin was glowing. I just felt better. I just did. And so it really reinforced. Now, in the beginning of my intermittent fasting journey, I would panic. So my eating window is between 1 and 9 p.m. If I didn't have kids, if I had a different life, I'd probably opt to do either 10 or 11 o'clock start time. I'm not really hungry in the morning personally. So probably like an 11, maybe 12 at the latest would be my beginning window. But I found myself panic eating at 8:30 p.m. because I just couldn't get over the psychology of listening to my body, that my body would know what I want and need. And so at 8:30 I wouldn't even be hungry, but I would be like, "Oh, I got to eat because I can't eat again until 1." And so having that mentality, it was like I'm just eating to maybe prevent me from being hungry tomorrow morning and until 1 o'clock. And so that took a little while to work through for me personally, where I had to say, am I really hungry? No. Why are we eating this? Like, even if it's small as a fruit or a banana or something else, is it necessary? Does your body need this right now? And sometimes the answer would be yes. Okay. And that's okay. And other times the answer was like, no, I'm just eating because I'm scared. I'm scared that I'm going to be hungry tomorrow. And so I would say, okay, let's just try it. Let's see if you don't eat, will you be hungry in the morning? And if you are, let's make some adjustments. So I slowly weaned off that 8:30 meal, unless that was the meal time. And yeah, like it's been great listening to my body. There are times that it's 11:30 and I'm like, I am hungry. I have done way too many workouts. I've got this hormonal factor going on or whatever it is, and I'm hungry and I need to eat something right now, and I'll eat in that time and I'll adjust my thing and be like, okay, I'll just finish earlier. Or if I'm at a party or a gathering and or the evening something happens unexpected and it's 9:30 and I'm hungry still, or it's New Year's or something like that, I have a choice. I could not, but I also am like, it's fine. I can. It's not like all of a sudden my body's going to go into chaos because I ate something at there. I'm very confident in the process. I'm very confident in that it's going to be okay. And it's okay to adapt and pivot on certain days and times. And that's okay. So really learning that it's going to be okay. And that I can listen to my body. If I'm hungry, eat. If I'm not hungry, don't force yourself to eat just because you're restricted to this time, choosing to be restricted about your consumption times. So anyways, yeah, I highly suggest intermittent fasting. I think it's been absolutely life-changing. I didn't read a lot of books or, I know that there's a ton of literature about it. I just more or less did my research online and on the fly and was kind of like, I think this pretty much works. It's not going to cost me anything. And I'm a very frugal person at times. So, I'm like, hey, this is free. This is something that I can adapt to a lifestyle. I can alter and pivot and change as needed. Yeah, let's give this a shot. And I think, so I started in late 2020, I believe, possibly early 2021. And I have not gone back. I love it. I love it. I love it. I preach it. I love it. Enjoy it. It's great. So if you ever had the chance, have the courage, give it 30 days, I always say, just as your body gets used to it. And even after those 30 days, there's a ton of psychology, at least for me as a recovering obese person, that, I had to get over, but I'm not lying to you when I say I do not have like the healthiest of diets. I don't look at macronutrients. I mean, all these things are things maybe I will eventually down the line. But at this juncture, like I literally, if my kids are eating In-N-Out, I have In-N-Out. I naturally have craved these things less than I used to. And I do crave more fish or chicken or protein or veggies and things like that. I do, my body wants those things. But yeah, I have no clue on, I don't even have the mental power to sit down and be like, what are my macronutrients? I need more protein. I need more carb. I don't know. I just basically eat what I eat and know like, hey, when I eat this, I feel pretty vibrant and great during a workout. If I eat this the next day, I feel very sluggish. My performance is off. Like, so that is my scale. So anyways, I slowly got down, over the course of these last, so now it's 2024. So I want to say I started my journey mid 2020 with those small walks. December 2020, because I was so undisciplined and so like baby me at that point. November hit, and December's crazy for me. I have 3 kids with birthdays in December. The holidays, my Clark Griswold expectations of the holidays. Um, and I just decided on Thanksgiving, I was like, look, I may not exercise today. I'm gonna be eating bad. We love baking cookies. And I basically had took December off, which then led into January because, I can't start anything again when the kids are not back in school. My routines are still off. All the way into my son's birthday, which is in February, I had taken off. And so I don't recall. I know I probably wrote it